Welcome back to the channel, back at Mirror Image Auto Body. Gonna be painting the front clip of Cookie Monster. And as you guys and gals just saw, I spent a couple hours yesterday getting these parts ready to spray. The Dustless Blaster makes insanely quick work of fully stripping these panels down. I would say between the two front fenders, the bumper, and these smaller pieces, I have probably maybe 2 hours in stripping those down. Mirror Image got hit with kind of a double whammy in the last couple of weeks. First thing, they just replaced the motor in this air compressor and it lasted about a month. Caught on fire not that long ago and almost caught the roof on fire here. Also his Hobart welder that he's had for over 10 years decided to quit working. It still turns on and works, but it's not pumping gas through the system. So he had to go out and borrow a little titanium Harbor Freight special unit. So I'll be doing some welding with this guy today.
It's a little too hot. Oh, this welder kind of sucks.
Got that fender all prepped. Actually got quite a few other things prepped out. I ended up feeling the little screw holes that are in the wheel arch, just to, you know, add some detail to it. Devil's in the details with this stuff. So next we're gonna throw on some Duraglass. This is a like heavy duty fiberglass reinforced resin filler. We like to use this stuff when we're going over welds and whatnot because it adds a little bit more rigidity to the body filler. Also, like to add in a little bit of extra resin just to make it a little more friendly on the old application part. So we got our hardener here. You just do a little dab, nothing crazy. And then we just got some regular fiberglass resin, and we're gonna just do a little bloop. Got some on my fingers. It's probably better to do gloves with this part. Get this all nice and mixed up evenly. We wanna make sure that there's no like hardener hot spots in there. And we don't wanna have it to where you miss a spot with a hardener and then that just causes some problems. Anyway, all right, this looks good. Yeah, I just filled some of these holes up with weld and go back through and just go over them with the Duraglass. While I wait for that Duraglass to dry, I'm gonna go ahead and start prepping my bumper and radiator support for epoxy primer. So even though this is bare metal, I still wanna go over this with 180 grit. I wanna get rid of all the media dust that's all over this thing and just make sure we have a nice uniform finish for the epoxy. Now for the radiator support, it's gonna be a little different. I had thought about blasting off that E-coating, but instead, we're just gonna scuff it up with a Scotch-Brite and that'll be ready to go. The abrasives company in Dasa makes these sponge sanding pads, which is actually pretty nice when you're doing something like this radiator support. Really gets into the nooks and crannies. So you get a nice even finish ready for paint. Anyway, I wanted to take this moment to let you guys and gals know that I'm not a professional. I do this for fun. This is actually my first full paint job and I'm crashing the Mirror Image Auto Body shop while I'm learning how to do it. Listen, guys and gals, there's a dozen ways to skin a cat, okay? There's a dozen different ways you can go about painting your project. There's hundreds, if not thousands of different products you could use to achieve this result. This is just the way that we're doing this particular job. And just because I don't cover a certain step or I wouldn't do it a way that a different auto body or restoration shop would, doesn't mean that it's the wrong way. So keep that in mind when you're watching this video series. Now that our Duraglass is kicked, it's time to start shaping this area. So I'm just gonna hit it with some 80 grit on a DA. You could go down to 40 if you wanted to. And then I'm gonna block it with 80 and then again block it with 120 to finish it up. And then we should be ready to prime this sucker. Now that the panels are ready to paint, we are gonna use the Auto Aura Epoxy Primer and Hardener. This epoxy primer is a 2-to-1 mixing ratio, and once the product is mixed, it needs to sit for at least 15 minutes. While the epoxy primer is setting up, I'm gonna go ahead and wipe the panels down with this Prep All wax and grease remover and follow that up with the Spray Away glass cleaner. Once the epoxy primer sets for 30 minutes, I can apply the Auto Aura High Build Primer. This is a 4-to-1 mixing ratio, and you can spray this right away after mixing. I'm going to apply 3 to 4 heavy coats, allowing 10 to 15 minutes of drying time between coats, and I'm only gonna apply the High Build Primer to the areas I'm going to be body working, which are the areas that will be visible when the truck is painted. Wasn't able to get everything painted, under primer. If you look, Steve's got a full shop right now. So he's got more stuff over there. On the other side of that wall is the spray booth. So we got to really I need to stay out of his way because he has to continue to get these projects done for his customers. And then I just kind of fill in the gaps where I can. So I'm literally working in between two projects right now. But anyway, so backside of this is epoxy, top side is epoxy for the base layer. Then we got that high build primer. I did 4 coats of the high build. And as you see here, this is where that Duraglass is. So I'm gonna hit this with some body filler after I scuff it with some 80 grit sandpaper. Then we could come through here and dust it with some black paint and use that as a guide coat to start body working this and making it straight. I am jumping around a bit on this build, on this project, just because I don't want to get in Steven's way, but at the same time, it's going to be the same process for every single panel that we do. While that body filler dries, I'm going to go ahead and start blocking this fender here. So we got this nifty Indasa vacuum that hooks up to this sanding block here. So I'm not really gonna be able to talk to you guys through this, but basically you just wanna go over the entire panel with the block and get it as flat as possible. But before I do that, I'm gonna spray it with some paint so I have a guide coat. And you don't wanna burn through the primer. The high build primer is a different color than the epoxy primer. So when you start seeing that color change, you need to stop, and then you have to put on some more high build or body filler or whatever. Really, you want the body filler to go on top of the primer and not on top of bare metal. This is my preliminary first pass. So you see right here, we can still see some of this guide coat. So this is gonna be a low spot that we'll need to put some filler in. And you see here, this is actually a high spot, because that is the epoxy primer showing through the high build right next to a low spot. Got a couple more high spots, high spot, low spot. And this could probably be worked a little bit more. But I didn't want to get too far down here because I was gonna get into my body filler, which is now ready to knock down and start working. And unfortunately, you know, I'm not that good at this, so I've already burned through the epoxy coat right there. No big deal. When I go back to put some more high build on this, I'll go ahead and hit the bare spots with the epoxy primer, and then once that dries, go back over with a high build. Really not a big deal at all. Now I'm gonna knock down this body filler with some 40 grit, just to kind of cut through it, and then go back over it with 80 on a block. Making a little bit of progress here, so I just kept going over that whole panel. I actually switched to a smaller block so I can get in these tighter areas. You can see here, yeah, I did burn through. That's okay, we're gonna be able to re-epoxy that. We see all these little pits here. Well, that high build should be able to take care of that. So I'm not gonna be going over that with the body filler. Maybe this one, but definitely gonna be hitting that, and that with some body filler. And the rest of it, I think, is gonna be okay. The car's value. While that body filler's drying, I'm gonna go ahead and jump on the other fender and start body working that one and see how it looks. Just kind of doing my initial pass here. It's crazy like how straight a panel looks and feels until you actually put a block on it and start sanding. You got low spot, low spot, low spot, low spot, low spot. All these are low spots. We'll keep going at it, see how much we can get out, and then we'll come in here, you know, work these smaller areas, work this down here. Hopefully we'll be in good shape. This stuff's getting dry, so I'll probably pull this back up on the table here in a minute, flatten those out. Then we'll be ready to spot prime the bare metal spots with epoxy and do another like 3 or 4 coats of high build and do this all over again. Now that is looking real nice. Found some high spots over here. Not a big deal. Again, remember we're gonna hit it with that primer. But before we put the next coats of primer on it, I'm gonna do 150 grit on a block to take out these 80 grit scratches. This is gonna help refine the finish and get an even flatter panel. So again, the guide coat, guys and gals, it's just some black spray paint. That's all that it is. But when you come in here, you'll see it'll highlight the 80 grit scratches, and as you work through the 80 grit, it'll disappear. See, it's nice and clean right here. When you go up a little bit, you see some scratches. You go down a little bit, you see some scratches. So that's just the 80 grit left in there. So we're just gonna work this whole panel with the 150, come over here, spray this, do the same. Got everything laid out, getting ready to lay down our epoxy. So you can see here, we got some of those 80 grit scratches in there still. Keep in mind, we got a big old piece of trim that goes right here. So I'm not real worried about that. This is all smooth, looking good. We're gonna spot prime the bare metal with the epoxy. So we're not shooting the whole panel, just where the bare metal is. And also, if you guys and gals remember, this truck had a cowl hood on it and I did not like it, so I swapped that hood with a fella. And this one had some imperfections on it. It's pretty straight though, so we're not stripping this thing all the way down because Steve painted this one not that long ago. So just kind of going down to bare metal in a couple spots, epoxy priming that, and then we'll scuff it and we'll shoot all of it with the old high build. Again, we're gonna clean our panels with wax and grease remover, then do our final wipe with a spray away glass cleaner, and we're ready to start priming. These panels are looking really nice. So these are ready for the final wet sand at 400, and then we're gonna follow it up with 600, but they have to sit a couple of days to let this high build set up. But I'm gonna turn my attention to the hood. There is a low spot on the body line right here, and then a little bit of a low spot right there. So we're gonna blend everything in. Gonna do it with the 80 grit on a block, and then follow it up with a 150 on a block, and then do whatever kind of body work we gotta do. And once we do that, we'll scuff the whole hood do it in high build, let it sit for a couple days so we can do our final sand, final wet sand. And then I'll also bring in the slosh tubs and start prepping those. Anyway, let's get to sanding this hood. I already laid down my guide coat here. Just kind of give you an idea on what we're working with. Got that initial block with 180, ended up cutting through right here, dag nabbit. Gonna do our dust coat. Again, it's just regular paint, guys and gals. This just ain't nothing fancy. Got 150 on the block. All right, still got to do these channels here in the roof, but we got a low spot here and we got a low spot there. So go ahead and just float this out. All right, while I'm waiting on this to dry, I'm going to use this foam sanding sponge from Mendoza. And I already went over the whole hood. There was a couple of low spots that we'll be able to fill with our high build primer. But I'm gonna get into these little channels here with this sucker. Getting a phone call. I don't know who that is. Got some epoxy primer for the spots I blew through. Actually blew through a little more body work in that body filler. I was hitting this with some 150 on the DA. And then this is a fine, like I said, that fine pad from Mendoza that I used on the hood. Just going over everything, making sure we get it nice and scuffed up, ready for high build. I still got to get in here, see some shiny spots. Got to make sure we get all that. Got to do this one, obviously. But that's kind of what you're going for. With this gel coat, you don't have to do, with this, this is a fiberglass tub, so you don't have to do any epoxy primer over anything. So what I'm going to do is just like after I get this scuffed up and get everything nice and not shiny, go ahead and hit it with a high build. Hit that with a high build. And I just remembered I got everything almost under high build ready for final sanding, except for the core support, which is next door in the spray booth, and I totally forgot about it. But that seems to happen with every project. Like I always forget like one part that I gotta do. So we got some more, we don't have any epoxy primer right now anyway. I used the last bit of it on the hood right there. So we got some more coming, and then I'll hit that, and then hopefully we'll have everything under high build this afternoon. One thing I didn't mention, maybe I did and I don't remember, is all of the body panels are getting high gloss paint. So we want these to be as flat and as smooth as possible, which is why I'm spending so much time making sure these panels are in really good shape, making sure they're flat and everything looks good. But in the engine bay, these are actually going to be a matte finish or maybe a semi-gloss. So they're not going to be a high gloss finish. So I'm not going to be working these to the level that I'm working the body panels to. Because when you're doing that matte sheen, you want everything to be flat and uniform, but it doesn't have to be absolutely laser straight. That's why you see me working this with a DA and then just getting the areas with a sponge. Because once I get the high build primer on, I'll come in with a small block, and I'll probably block this area here, because this is what you're gonna see. You'll see this area, you'll see this area, but back here and up here, you're not gonna see this at all. And then from right here over, is going to be under the fenders. So really I'm only worried about these two areas. And again, it's getting that semi-gloss finish, so it doesn't have to be like absolutely perfect. Got these tubs all prepped. Just going to give them a wipe down with the glass cleaner. Get them ready for some high build. I did have a spot right here I had to fill with some body filler, but wasn't too bad. Took the boys to that new Minecraft movie this weekend. It's pretty good. Jack Black, Jason Momoa, some other people were in it. It's pretty funny. I don't understand why everybody was freaking out during the chicken jockey part. Throwing popcorn and going nuts. It's pretty funny though. Actually, one of the only times that we've ever been to a movie and it was like sold out. It was insane. Oh, by the way, Walker and Wyatt are gonna be with Lauren and I at C10s in the City. This will be the first event where Yeah Buddy Garage will have a booth. And I just got a tent in and a new table cover. It actually looks pretty freaking legit. So swing by, ask the boys for an autograph. They would be over the moon. And, you know, come buy some swag to help support the two shops that I'm paying for right now, but not working at because I'm at this one. This makes no sense. I keep telling myself that once Cookie Monster's done, I'll be able to get back to making the content I want to make because I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't really want to build this truck. I thought it was gonna be a quick, easy, get her cut, buffed up, looking nice, and send it down the road. And it's strewn about in half dozen pieces in this shop. I got the body and frame, the cab and frames at my house, and then there's interior parts at my other shop. I don't want to do this. I want to work on other stuff. Anyway, I found the radiator support. I got that under epoxy primer. That's kicking. I'm gonna get this hood wiped down. This is ready for high build. So really, once that dries and cures, which is another 10 minutes or so, this will all be ready for 3 or 4 coats of high build. And then we just gotta let it sit. Today, the fenders and bumper are ready for the final sand. We're gonna do 400 wet and go to 600 wet. I got my guide coat on here. I wanted to show you guys this real quick. So Steve's been working on this car for probably 2 years. This is Eleanor replica from, you know, Gone in 60 Seconds. The owner chose a different color combination, but this is the same clear coat that is on Cookie Monster, except Steve changed some of his gun settings and pressure settings to get it to lay significantly flatter. So if y'all remember the last time I painted the cabin doors, there were a lot of runs and it was pretty rough looking. So I think we're gonna scuff that with like 600 or 800 and then go ahead and reshoot it because I'm gonna spend a week just wet sanding the thing trying to get it flat to get ready to buff, and I don't want to spend that much time doing that, so we feel like it's going to be easier to do that. Also on the bottom I want to go ahead and do like right here where this fender is, I want to do a textured coating to help with like rock chips and stuff and be easier to keep that clean down there. So we'll get the cab and doors back in and do all that stuff, but right now we got to get this thing sanded down. Man, look at how good this looks. See that reflection? I just wet the panel down so you guys could get an idea of what it's gonna look like with a clear coat on it. I think it's also worth noting at this point in the process, you don't want to burn through the paint. If you do, you have to epoxy prime it and then go back and wet sand the area you primed. I mean, not a big deal, it just takes more time. So now that we got this fully sanded with 400, we're gonna take some 600, quickly go over it just to kind of knock down some of those 400 scratches, and this sucker is gonna be ready for paint. And any of the nooks and crannies and the tight spots and hard to get to places, you need to go over that with a fine, either Scotch-Brite pad, or we have the Endasa fine foam sanding pads that we can get into all those tight to reach, hard to reach areas, and make sure that we have proper adhesion when we lay down our color, our tropical turquoise. Finally about to lay down some color. Let me walk you guys around here, show you what we got going on. Got our fenders hanging up over here. Now you guys saw me prep one of these. On Friday, I prepped the fenders and the bumper, which I got hanging up right here, ready to spray. And this morning I came in and I finished prepping all these pieces here, including the hood. So again, same process. Put your guide coat on, 400 wet, go over it quickly with a 600 just to kind of knock down the 400 scratches. Prep the underside of the hood with just a gray Scotch-Brite pad, and we had some bare metal spots, so I just hit that with an epoxy primer. Once that sits for 30 minutes, you're ready to go over it. So pretty much have it broken up into two sections. So all these parts from the bumper over, these are all getting the high gloss, and then all these parts over here are all getting the matte. So I'm gonna spray the base coat and get the color on, and once that's done, Steven's gonna come in and he's gonna spray the clear coat, because I did a really bad job last time and he got it down with that Mustang that I showed you guys earlier. So he's gonna come in, lay it on nice and smooth, so I'm not gonna have to spend forever freaking wet sand and buffing this thing. Let's get some color on these panels. There's our paint. We got that Auto Aura in the tropical turquoise. Here's the reducer. Gonna go 1-to-1 on that. It's a 50-50 ratio. We're gonna shoot for 3 coats. The first coat's not gonna be real heavy. We just wanna make sure we get good coverage. And then the subsequent coats will go on a little bit heavier. Things are looking good. All right, so I feel like I'm cheating because Steve's gonna do the clear coat. And this is the that's it right there, the satin clear. And we mixed it with some of this for the activator. It's all you, brother. Cool. Yeah, man. So in the last truck, Steve told me that when you're spraying this stuff, you don't really get a whole lot of room for error. And if you get a run, you can't really like wet sand and polish it out. So you gotta be dialed with your application. Man, these are looking good. What's up, man?
I'm just trying to crack down clear under the mix.
Oh, I got you. Steve's over here mixing up the high solids clear, the shiny stuff for the rest of the panels. He just laid down the satin clear, and man, that looks pretty good, if you ask me. Heck yeah. My goodness, Steve laid it down. Look at how just flat this is. This is that 2-to-1 high solids clear. Plenty of room to wet sand and buff. We did 3 coats on these panels, and just, I mean, it's just laying it down so nice, man. So it's not going to take a bunch of wet sand and buffing, which we're going to do in another video. And I was just talking to them. They have a guide coat for wet sanding. So start with 1,000, get rid of your orange peel, put on the guide coat, and start working through. That's kind of, for me at least, when I'm doing wet sanding and polishing, I get hung up on just missing like a couple of 1,000 grit scratches, and the buffer's just not quite powerful enough to get it out. So we're gonna see if that helps speed up the process, but I am very happy with this. And these freaking slosh tubs look amazing. But that's pretty much what you get right out of the box from slosh tubs. Very, very nice stuff. Did the same thing with these guys. Looks good. Anyway, guys and gals, we're gonna get out of here because we spent a little bit longer in the shop than what we thought we were today. And we're gonna let these dry. I'm gonna get them over to the shop, and then, you know, of course, we're gonna start putting them on Cookie Monster later on. Next thing, we're gonna get the bed in here. I'm gonna strip that down just like I did with these panels. We're gonna do some rust repair. We're gonna prep the bed floor for a bed liner, and we're gonna color match the bed liner and fill the gas filler neck. Gotta do some bed work where the Boyd fuel cell filler neck is. So, I don't know, I'll show you that whenever it gets there, but I'm tired. As always, I appreciate y'all hanging around and watching these videos. I'll see you in the next one.